Whoa. That's it? Now what? How's it going, everyone? It's Eugene once again here for another episode of Eugene Reviews. For today's episode, I'm going to do something a little bit different. And in response and celebration to the announcement of the PlayStation 5 console, as well as a slew of games, including Spider-Man Miles Morales, I figure let's go back to 2018 and revisit the groundbreaking Insomniac game known as Spider-Man. I just recently finished playing the entire game. I'm talking the whole story, the whole DLCs, everything, and got all the suits. Matter of fact, let's take a selfie. As you can see my travels, I went to the Avengers Tower, and then I went to the Avengers Tower again in this suit, and then I went to the Avengers Towers again on this suit, and then I went to the Avengers Towers again on that suit. I'll still be doing my 3 acts, development, execution, response, but we're gonna do it within the realm of video games now. Now, I'm not an avid gamer per se, but since this is involving my favorite comic book character of all time, of course I have to review this. This is gonna get me amped up for Spider-Man Miles Morales, as well as the PlayStation 5 console and the plethora of games to follow. So let's take a look at Spider-Man for the PlayStation 4. Act 1, development. Spider-Man for PlayStation 4, take 1. So to dive into the development of Spider-Man, we have to look at the game developers themselves, which is Insomniac Games. Prior to the acquisition of Spider-Man and Marvel Games, Insomniac has been around for 2 decades, and they have not had a single property to kind of make a video game based off. Production for this game started in 2014 with the intent of this being a standalone Spider-Man that doesn't depend on either comic books or film or any other media. This would be the first standalone, non-dependent Spider-Man game ever. As you can recall, in previous consoles and previous games, it's always latching on to a comic book storyline, or it's latching on to a movie storyline. Now, anytime that happens, you're really kind of limited to their storytelling, to their story arcs, to their overall structure. But with the opportunity to showcase an original story, it allows them to kind of go to different places and really showcase different aspects of a character that's beloved, such as Spider-Man. This is a unique universe for Spider-Man. This actually takes place in Earth 1048. Now, if you're not familiar with comic books or Spider-Man per se, Earth dash number is usually kind of the universe that deals with a certain Spider-Man. For instance, in one universe, you're gonna have Peter Parker, in another universe, you're gonna have Spider-Ham, in another universe, you're gonna have Spider-Man Noir, in the other universe, you're gonna have Miles Morales. Several different universes throughout, but all still maintaining that allure of Spider-Man. And this game is no different because it's dealing with an original concept of Spider-Man. This takes place in Earth 1048, and it may have familiar characters, but it's not really latching on to a movie, or it's not latching on to a certain comic book story. So already on paper, this looks like a big gamble because you aren't depending on previous works. You're not dependent on upcoming films. This is just Spider-Man, but there's so much to work with and so much originality to be showcased that it feels like it's destined to fail, but it has so much to gain. So the 2 things to look at the development of this game, first being Insomniac Games' first time ever getting an actual property to work a game on, and not something original. And second, and most importantly, this game basing itself on no other previous properties or no other films pertaining to Spider-Man. This is all original. This is all fresh, this is all vibrant, and something new to showcase to the entire world. Act 2, execution. Spider-Man for PlayStation 4, take 1. So when the announcement in 2018 came for this Spider-Man game, of course everyone was on board to get this. Numerous video game sites and magazines had this labeled as one of the most anticipated games for the year 2018, and rightfully so. I mean, it's Spider-Man, it's a open world game, What's there not to like? And trust me when I say this, there is a lot to like in this video game. Prior to the release of this game, I've actually played previous Spider-Man games. My favorite actually being Spider-Man 2 for PlayStation 2. That video game was actually based on the 2004 Sam Raimi sequel, Spider-Man 2. So that one was actually latched on to the film. But this one, with no film latched onto it, with no previous comic book latched onto it, and really nothing to go off of but everything in the game, was spellbinding. The world of New York City in this video game was beautiful. It was beautifully crafted. The animations were crisp. From the little rats that you see on the street to the architectural phenomenon of several buildings throughout, like the Empire State Building, the Chrysler Building, even Avengers Tower, even One World Trade Center, even Times Square looks like Times Square. All throughout this video game, it's just majestic to look at. My only gripe is, you weren't able to get an opportunity to go to the Statue of Liberty. I love the opportunity to go to the Statue of Liberty in Spider-Man. Not in real life, haven't been to the Statue of Liberty yet, ever. But in the video game, you're not able to go to the Statue of Liberty, which kind of bummed me out. I really loved the multitude of suits that you're able to unlock as you progress throughout the game. You start off with the simplistic suit, and then you go on to the red, white, and blue suit that you would see on the video game cover. And then all throughout you go through different suits. One of my particular favorites was the Rockstar suit, where he has this air guitar, and his special move, he just strums a guitar and he knocks out all the enemies within his radius. That's badass. But then you also see other suits that you would see not only in different comic books, but you would see in different films, like the Spider-Man 2099 suit, the original Sam Raimi trilogy Spider-Man suit, the Spider-Man Homecoming suit, as well as the Spider-Man Far From Home suit. Even Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was featured in this video game. So if you're a fan of a certain Spider-Man throughout any universe, you're probably going to find a suit in this game that you're gonna latch onto. The story mode in this is pretty legit. You're not just limited to playing Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, but there are some missions where you play Mary Jane Watson. There are even some missions where you play Miles Morales, who would soon become and take the mantle of Spider-Man. Yeah, those other side missions, those other side characters, when you play them, are a little bit boring, but it was nice to kind of step out of being Peter Parker and exploring their sides of the story and their sides of this world. So that was a plus, at least in my eyes. As much as you can enjoy playing those different characters, I feel, at least in my opinion, the story was pretty short. If anything, if you're an avid gamer, you could have gotten through this game in less than a day. This video game was so good to an extent where after the short story mode that everyone loved and enjoyed, fans still wanted more. To an extent where Sony had to release downloadable content of different stories to keep the fans entertained. I'll be one to admit, whenever I finished the game, I thought to myself, that's it? Like, I want to play some more. And then lo and behold, the DLC comes out where you get to play 3 different Spider-Man stories. I think the mechanics of this video game are pretty crisp when it comes to combat and swinging. The swinging there is phenomenal. The game is very Arkham-like. If you've played the Batman Arkham series, you'll know what I'm talking about, in the ability to kind of free roam throughout New York City. It's vibrant, it's colorful, and it's full of wonder where you can explore. In fact, one of the other features that I enjoyed about this was the photo mode. You can take pictures and you can screenshot those pictures all throughout New York City, and in certain angles and certain gestures and certain lighting and certain filters. If you're a photography nerd, you will enjoy that feature so much because Peter Parker is a photographer. So there you go. Put 2 and 2 together and you've got magic. So the pluses, I will say, the world is beautiful. The controls are top notch. The story, although short, was pretty significant. And there was even more stories for us to acknowledge and to explore, as well as the photo mode, which I fell in love with. And my only tidbit about it was not being able to go to the Statue of Liberty, as well as, of course, a shortened story, which isn't too much to diminish, but if I really wanted to be nitpicky, I'll go with that. Act 3 response, Spider-Man for PlayStation 4, take 1. So as it was kind of anticipated, Spider-Man 4 blew the roof in regards to sales. It was one of the fastest selling superhero comic book games of the year 2018. If I'm not mistaken, its overall gross in regards to sales stands at just below $200 million. To put that in perspective, Spider-Man Homecoming made less in their opening weekend than Spider-Man, the video game, made throughout the entire run that they've been selling their games. Everyone praised the animation, the mechanics of the game, as well as how visually appeasing it's become. And of course, accolades followed. They were on several top 10 lists for the year, several gaming awards for best game, best action game, so on and so forth. You can look it up and see how many awards that this game won. And the response had to be positive, because now, next year, we are going to be eagerly anticipating the release of not only the PlayStation 5 console, but a game that follows it, known as Spider-Man Miles Morales. Whether or not this is an extension of the Spider-Man universe or if it's its own standalone story, regardless of that, you know fans are gonna clamor for that video game because of how great not only Spider-Man is as a pop culture phenomenon, but how Spider-Man for PlayStation 4 in 2018 really kind of set the barrier for what this could truly become. This original type of Spider-Man storytelling with video games, what really kind of behemoth this could truly become. So several awards, top 10 lists, multiple downloads, making almost $200 million in sales. I mean, what more can you say about the response? People are still playing this game today. People are enjoying Spider-Man. And what's not to love about Spider-Man? All right, so with all that said, let's go ahead and hit the verdict. My verdict for Spider-Man for PlayStation 4 is pretty easy. I enjoyed playing the hell out of this. I still do, even after the stories have concluded. It's a joy to swing around New York City and fight off bad guys and trying on different suits and really exploring the true powers of what Spider-Man could do in this video game. It's real nice too, even the small tidbits from the subway rides to the interaction with pedestrians to even the certain detailed areas of New York City that you didn't think would be featured but actually were. The small Easter eggs that you see all throughout. Don't even get me started on the Easter eggs, like Avengers Tower, the Sanctum in New York that pertains to Doctor Strange, various shout outs to certain defenders like Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist. You'll see that all throughout the video game as well, and other kind of New York / Spider-Man callbacks, if you will. There's a lot to be acknowledged, there's a lot to enjoy, there's a lot to love, and very few mistakes that won't diminish your overall feeling for this. But if you really wanted to be an asshole, yeah, you would pick out those things. It's something that you're going to want to play again and again and again until you've had your fill of Spider-Man, which, let's face it, you're never going to have your fill of Spider-Man. You're going to want more Spider-Man and more Spider-Man and more Spider-Man. I'm going to come down to it and say that Spider-Man for PlayStation 4 gets a 9.5 out of 10. It's just really a near masterpiece. It's breathtaking, and I cannot wait for Spider-Man Miles Morales for PlayStation 5 to see really the momentum they can build to catapult from the first Spider-Man game. So what did you guys think of Spider-Man for PlayStation 4? Did you love it like I did? Did you think it's the worst game ever made? Do you think it's Do you think it's like, oh, well, Spider-Man for PlayStation 1 is better than this? Leave your comments on the comments section below. Let me know what other video games too you'd like for me to explore. I'm probably going to be doing more of these as more, eagerly anticipated games start to come out, not just for PlayStation 4, but for PlayStation 5. Once again, not an avid gamer, but something that I would love to kind of take a dive in and see really my niche for video games, whether it be, first-person shooters or open world games, stuff like that. Even sports games. I'll review sports games even though they're kind of the same after every year. So guys, hope you enjoyed the review. I'll be doing more games, but I'll also be going back to my movies as well. So that's still gonna be around. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. Be sure to look at my previous reviews of different films such as The Dark Knight, Iron Man 1 and 2, and The Incredible Hulk. I'm gonna be having more films coming out in the later weeks, as well as more video games. This is being recorded on June 19th, so for those of you watching, a belated happy Juneteenth, as well as a happy belated Father's Day to all the fathers out there. To all the Fajas. The Fajas. Faja, can you hear me? Till then, see y'all next time, and that is a wrap. So what do you guys think of Spider-Man 4?
What?